Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another roundup of news brought to you by myself, the Beardy Gaymer, and joining me this evening is a very own Butuis.
Oh, you gotta change it around. I was gonna say happy to be here, but now I'm in the wrong spot. A little bit of techno majory here.
Center we go. It was like it was always there to begin with.
Exactly.
Butuis, we have got some news to go through this week. We've got
Sounds like it.
5 items. Actually, more than 5 in there. But we'll get into it in a minute. To start off, I just want to go through some housekeeping with you. So, tomorrow, me and Bot have got a bit of a date. And we're going to go through the setup for our D&D show. So hopefully,
yes, we should be working on it tomorrow. And if everything works well in the initial setup, we will be going live tomorrow shortly after that. And we'll see how it goes. We had some technical difficulties last week, but we got them worked out. So hopefully we'll be able to bring this to you guys tomorrow. Stay tuned on Twitter for some updates.
Which leads me nicely to a little apology, because last week we did miss out on a couple of our episodes, but unfortunately we have some busy, a full-time thing, a part-time thing, so we can't always try and get back on regular scheduling this week. Speaking of which, on Sunday, we're hoping to bring you another episode of the podcast. If not, it will be the beginning of next week, working out what topic's going to be. Bear with us. Back to regular? How do I keep regular content scheduling? That's what it is. It's a scheduling. But in my mind, and I'm messing my words up. Beardy, your mic is cutting out. I had this problem on my own. Hello? Did that? I don't know if that helped or made it worse, but let's see how that goes. I think I might have made it worse. No.
Seems fine on my end. Must be just for when broadcasting.
Yeah, it's because what I have on Hey, Rick Welter, there we go. My sound manager here to tell me whether I'm here or not. I think that my microphone is on its way out. Maybe my settings are off. No. Okay, we'll go with this instead. I think this might be better now. Just let me know if it's not. Anyway, let's get on with the show. We'll see what happens. We'll sort out all the other technical bits in due process. So, let's get on with the show. 5 items to report today. Starting off with number 1. We all know that an extra inch counts. Oh, don't we know this? Samsung is apparently producing a new OLED screen for Nintendo, fueling rumors that the Switch Pro release is upon us once again. These new 7-inch screens will start production in June, ready to ship to suppliers for construction in July. There's also been hints of the 4K version of the Switch. Been swelling for some time, but this new news has been brought to the headlines again. We're going to go to Bloomberg to a story by Takashi Mikositsu and Slowkim. I always mess these names up. So, just to do some editorializing, let's have a look through here. So, apparently Nintendo is planning to unveil a new model of the Switch which is going to be equipped with these larger screens in 720p resolution, so no upgrade to the screen size in handheld mode. However, docked, it could render up to 4K using, I think it's NVIDIA's digital learning to be able to upscale things. Over on Bloomberg, there is a article going through everything, and they refer to everybody as the people because it's their sources. However, because it is Bloomberg, we're going to take it as there must be something in the works, especially given there's another article that came out today where Nintendo was talking about how they look at consoles and how they develop and everything else, and basically saying that they look for a trend in things going downhill again, so that they can then go in there and revive things. And a lot of analytics are saying that it's going to be a really good idea to do this because a quote here from Matthew Canterman and Nathan Nayades, analysts for Bloomberg, said the release of a more premium version of the Nintendo Switch's console with an OLED display and support 4K graphics for holiday of 2021 selling season could drive the company's sales above consensus for the fiscal year ending March 2022 and extend the life cycle of the Switch platform for many more years. Botuus, what do you think about all this?
Well, Nintendo's in some heavy competition right now because they're still working off the Switch, and Sony and Microsoft have both got new systems out within the last year here. But I think this is a good route for Nintendo to go because, to be honest, Nintendo fans don't buy Nintendo consoles because it's the cutting edge, best graphics in the world. Mm-hmm. It's because they have access to the titles that they want. It allows them to have graphics that they're and characters rendered in a way that they're comfortable with and familiar with. And it's the portable-ness of it too. Because I mean, with either the Xbox or the PlayStation, obviously you don't have any portability inside of that particular device, but with the Switch you do. So I think that them continuing to improve on the current console that they have is great because this way people don't have to go out and buy new versions of the game for a new, console. They can continue playing the ones they have, and if people don't want to upgrade, they don't have to, but if they do want to upgrade because they want the newest thing and they want a bigger screen and the better graphics, then they can. They have the option for it. But this way, the games that they develop will still be able to work on both versions, whereas, every time a new PlayStation or new Xbox comes out, it's kind of a guessing game of whether or not games are going to work backwards or, whichever.
I think in the Switch's life cycle this time round, something that they've tapped into that they've not been able to tap into for a while is this third-party support. And I think we've seen an incredible amount of third-party games coming to the Switch, which we wouldn't have seen in the Wii U and Wii days. And I think because they folded in their handheld and console market together into one place, I can't see the Switch dying off for a very long time, especially if they keep making these iterations to it and almost turn it into the iPhone of gaming consoles. Look
at it like this. Like, the Nintendo handhelds have always been the most popular handhelds, and their consoles have always been in the top 3, basically. So the Sony's attempts at handhelds hasn't gone super great. I mean, there are people who are diehard fans of them and they like them, but it's not like you're seeing them near as much as Switches, and Xbox doesn't even bother trying, really.
Yeah.
And the fact that they can merge both of the different genres into one that gives you the portability and the TV aspect of it, I think is the smart way to go, and it saves money, and you catch both audiences as long as you create a quality product.
And you get to consolidate your development houses as well. So across Nintendo's own first-party publishing, instead of making games for a DS and for a console, they can make the same thing for one thing and kill two birds with one stone. They've already got the Switch Lite, which is their version of a handheld. That's it. That's all it does. They have the Switch Normal as their normal console. If they have this kind of Switch Pro, or even I watched a YouTube video earlier on. I forgot the guy's name. I'll find it in a second. And he was basically saying maybe it won't be labeled as a Pro model and will be labeled as like a Switch XL, like in previous years of naming conventions with the 3DS, 3DS XL, 2DS, DS XL, all those kind of things. so that they're not over promising and under delivering. Because if you put Pro on the Switch model, you're going to set an expectation. But if you go, look, it's a larger screen, it's an XL model, it's the same form factor, we can fit some extra boosts in there because we're saving space from an LCD to an OLED. We can boost things here and there, and with this dock, I think the heavy lifting of the 4K stuff is going to be in the dock. I don't think it's going to be in the Switch itself. And there's a couple of reasons. Yeah, the couple of reasons I think that is, over the last few years, we've seen a huge rise in external GPUs. So people using those when they don't have a powerful PC or laptop or something to give those machines a boost to be able to run these great graphics and everything else. I don't think it's going to be this big external GPU thing, but I think that the dock part of the Switch XL or Pro or whatever they're going to call it may be a little bit larger than the current model that we have, and I think some of the technology that's going to boost these frames up from 720 to 4K is going to be in that box. I think that's where the power is going to come from.
That'll be really cool to see how that turns out, because I can see for things like, cooling properties and stuff like that, that would be a really handy way of doing it. Because, I mean, when it's in the handheld version, you're not going to need near as much of that power as you do when you're trying to render it on a large, 50, 60 some inch screen.
And I notice it now when I have my Switch docked. Like, it gets loud. Like, I can hear it sat on my bed when I'm playing Pokemon. I can hear the fan kicking up, trying to keep itself cool. So I think if they can offload that into the dock somehow and have a separate cooling system for the dock, I think that could work.
The only problem that I would see with that would be then existing docks aren't going to work as well for the new Switch XL or Switch Pro or whatever, because it's probably going to have to use that dock to be able to do that.
Yeah, probably. But we have the same thing with the standard Switch at the minute, where really there isn't a third-party licensed product that allowed you to dock the Switch and then put it up onto a TV. It's only really the official dock that's kind of guaranteed by Nintendo to work. I mean, I have a little thing here. Like, it's a tiny little box thing. But it's not Nintendo property, it's not licensed by them, and there is a risk that when I plug my Switch in there, it could brick my Switch because it's not designed to do what I'm getting it to do. Or it's not licensed to do those things. So I think if they have proprietary Pro docks, I don't think that's going to be an issue. To be honest with you, because it's coming with the system as it is.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's.
I mean, if you're buying the Switch XL or whatever, you're going to have probably another Switch anyways that you can use that docking system for any old ones. Like if you're anything like me, whenever I get a new system, my systems in my house rotate. So like if I have a big TV in the living room and I get a new game system, then that gets the new game system. And then if I depending on where I'm living at the time, if my TV upstairs in the bedroom has a game system, then it gets the most recent old one and it rotates through the system.
Yeah. The only thing I think that Nintendo needs to work on a little bit more is their handing off between consoles, because I know they have cloud saves and stuff like that, but I don't think, from what I understand, it's not as simple as on the Sony side of things. For example, if I pick up, I don't know, I'm playing Avengers, I've got it installed on my PlayStation 4 downstairs. I can sit down there, play some games, turn the console up, come upstairs, turn my PS5 on, and it will automatically load in my save because it's already got up to the cloud and everything else. From what I understand with the Switch, you can only have like a primary console, and then if your primary console is like in use, then it won't. If you use your secondary, it won't automatically upload saves. You have to do that manually, and that kind of stuff. I think if they're going to have a Pro version, I think they need to simplify that some way that it's a little bit more automatic. And the same thing with games like Pokemon. I know that the Pokemon games are localized, so your save file stays on your Switch. So if I'm playing Pokemon Sword on my Switch now, and I get a Pro, and I go put my normal Switch down, I go up to my Pro because I want to sit at the TV and play or whatever it is, I would have to manually transfer those saves around without it just kind of automatically doing it. So I think they do need to look at that side of things going forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Lovely. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled. I think it's very interesting that these rooms are coming out as well, and we're going to get onto the story later on, but there is another Pokemon game coming at the end of the year, and we know how consoles and Pokemon games usually end up getting launched around each other, so very interesting. Story number 2. I'm going to do my best Madonna impression here, so because we are living in a virtual reality world, and I am just a virtual reality girl. PSVR has had some exciting couple of weeks. Sony has announced that the second generation of its VR system is in development. That came to us last week, and then this week we've had 6 titles dropped for PSVR, and a patent for them to use some cool tech for you to be able to pick up a banana and use that as a controller. Yeah, very crazy stuff. So we're going to have a little look at the 6 games. So first up, we've got I Expect You to Die 2, which is a spy simulator. You're playing as a spy, you're going off on missions, doing things like trying to, I don't know, get your target or whatever it is. So the sequel to that is coming. Doom 3, this is one that I was quite interested at, is coming in a VR mode, because I actually thought if they were going to do another Doom VR, it would have been Eternal. But I wonder if it's maybe something to do with Microsoft. I don't know. Third game is After the Fall. So After the Fall comes from the same guys that made Arizona Sunshine. And it's going to be a fast-paced co-op first-person action game. We've got a expansive JRPG-inspired MMO called Zenith, which I think might be the first MMORPG on PlayStation VR. I know there's a couple of RPGs on there, but I think this is the first like online one, which could be pretty cool.
That'll be popular.
We've also got Fract, which is an action-adventure game. Song and the Smoke, which is a wildness survival game, so akin to something like The Forest, but without the crazy weird people. And then last one is, I think that's all of them actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, there's all of them. So there are a load of new games that are coming, which is kind of cool, because there was this whole thing about PlayStation VR when we came into PS5, you had to get this dongle to move everything around, and then some of the games aren't supported, and they never really said anything much about PlayStation VR since the PS5's announcement and launch, and then all of a sudden we've got all these games coming. What do you think about the games, Bot?
Well, they sound like they're a lot of fun. I do not have a PlayStation yet. I need to get one. I haven't had one in a while, but I am happy for any kind of advancements with virtual reality, because I have got to use the Oculus Rift virtual reality headset, and that's a lot of fun. And I imagine one that's more connected in with a game system like PlayStation, an established game system, would be even better. I think that if Zenith is going to be the first online MMO for virtual reality for PlayStation, I think that's going to attract a lot of people, because that just seems like a easy dunk for that particular kind of genre. I don't know. I don't know about Doom though. I feel like Doom would scare the crap out of me constantly in VR. And what is the cross section of people who want to use a banana as a controller?
Well,
I mean,
so the banana thing kind of links into this new VR system that they're talking about. So they basically said, like, we've got this new VR system coming, we're working on it, we don't have any pictures to show, we don't have anything else to say, but the one thing that we want to put forward is we've got these cool new controllers that are going to come with it, and they are taking cues from the DualSense with the haptics and the adaptive triggers and all those kind of things. We've seen these patents before of these controllers with haptics and adaptive touch points and stuff on them, which is going to be really cool. And they're also going to make it very streamlined, so they want it to be just one cable that you plug in. At the minute with PSVR, you have your PlayStation 4 / PlayStation 5, whatever your PlayStation console of choice is, and then you have a cable that goes from a USB into a secondary box, You have a HDMI that goes from the PS4 to the secondary box and then to the TV, and then you have the headset, which then has two cables that plug into the front of the secondary box before you can even get it going. So it's a bit of a setup, and I think anything that makes it easier to jump into VR makes things 10 times better. There are some great games on there. These games sound cool. I just think VR in general is still waiting for that thing that's going to make it the must-have thing.
My experience with VR, the one thing I think they need to work on is the seamlessness with walking in the game when you only have a small living room boundary area that you have set. Because I don't know, the games I've played in VR, it doesn't give me enough of that feel of walking, which is what really will give me the immersion in any given game. Because, like, if I eventually go and play a VR version of, I don't know, Pokemon or Skyrim or something similar to that, I really want that immersion of being able to be walking through the areas to be really clean and smooth. And that's about my only real main complaint, I would say. So I'm really looking forward to see what they do with these new titles. I mean, PlayStation has got a beefy engine to it, so it should be able to render some pretty cool games.
Yeah, I completely agree with you with the traversal side of things. You end up with two different styles of traversal. Either you can hold a button down to walk forward, backwards, left, right, whatever it is, or you have this zapping system. So you kind of point your controller where you want to go, press the button, and then it will kind of warp you forward.
That's what I've played more, is that style.
Yeah, so things like, so I played Skyrim in VR on my PlayStation. That has the option to walk forward. You can use a forward backwards button sort of thing. And then I've also played Vader Immortal, which is an incredible game, but the immersion gets broken the moment I need to move around because I have to use this zap system, and it just doesn't, it feels very disconnected. So I think they need to work on that. But I also understand that everybody has their own limits when it comes to VR, so VR sickness is still a thing. Some people can get into a game and play it for hours and hours. Personally, I've never had any VR sickness, but I've had some people jump into VR and within 2 minutes have to take the unit off because they think they're going to hurl everywhere. So
I've seen that too.
Yeah, striking that balance. But I'm excited for the future of VR. I'm excited to see what this new version of their system is going to be. Because in the interview that they gave when they were talking about this, they were saying that, look, this is like PlayStation 1 days. Like, this is only the second time that we've done this. We're still making these strives and adjustments and changes and everything else. And like you said, the PS5 is a bit of a powerhouse, and I think it probably can do some great things with a new version of the headset.
I agree.
Cool. Let's move on to story number 3. Catching them all for 25 years. This makes me feel really fucking old. So Pokemon has kicked off its 25th anniversary this weekend with a few Pocket Monster related things. We had a Direct on Friday, which showcased 2 new Pokemon games, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, as well as Arceus Legends, or Legends Arceus even. We also got an event in Pokemon Go and Sword and Shield, as well as a Post Malone concert, and various different things going on with shirts and merchandise and all the other stuff, as well as some new information on Pokemon Stat. I'm sure we're going to get some more bits going on through the year. However, let's go over to the Pokemon official post and news, where they talk a little bit more about it. So let's start with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So trainers will get the chance to visit the Sinnoh region in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, faithful remakes of the original Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl, which came out on the Nintendo DS. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are planned to launch on the Nintendo Switch later this year. And they've gone for a cutesy, chibi kind of art style, a little bit akin to Link's Awakening. However, not quite the same level of polish as Link's Awakening. We'll take each of these games kind of individually. So, Bot, what are your feelings on the remakes?
Well, I can't hear Brilliant Diamond without thinking of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I'm not a huge fan of the chibi style. I don't know. I'd rather have an old school top down, view versus the chibi style. I like the way they've gone with like Sword and Shield, where it's a lot more. I don't want to say realistic, but it's like the proportions of the person's body is a lot more realistic. And but I'm happy for remakes. I mean, Diamond and Pearl were great games back in the day. I feel like a dinosaur because I played the original Pokemon Red and Blue on the big brick Game Boy years ago.
Me and D both.
Yeah. Do you remember the link cable between the two to transfer game? Yeah.
Yep.
And so I've loved Pokemon since I was a kid, and my avatar I tend to use is the Snorlax. So I personally identify with that particular Pokemon, and I think it's great. I love it when they're remaking it. Everybody wants remakes of the old games. Nobody's arguing that point. I think the style's a little but that's not going to stop people from playing it. I mean, people are going to still enjoy it. I am much more excited for Arceus, though.
Well, I think when you look at Diamond and Pearl, first of all, I'd like to say that I think that Shining Diamond and Brilliant Pearl sounds better than Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Just saying.
Yeah,
that's going to be my only critique. However, chibi style, I'm actually okay with it. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. I only hope that the
heads are so big, but they look like they're bobbed. I mean,
so was Platinum and Diamond and Pearl and ORAS and X and Y and Black and White 2. Like all of the Pokemon games from DS up until Sun and Moon went for this kind of over-the-top lockdown chibi style thing when wandering around the world, and then as soon as you got into the battle system, it was full-size trainers and everything else. So I'm not mad about it. The only thing is I think it does need a little bit more polish. Obviously, we don't know what version of the build was shown. Pandemic, people working on things, blah, blah, blah. The other thing I think that's really important to remember is it's not Game Freak making these games. It is ILCA, which are the guys that worked on Pokemon Home. To what extent they worked on Pokemon Home, not too sure. I've got a funny feeling it's probably just on the sprites and stuff and the visuals of the actual home system rather than the actual mechanics and software and everything else. What I really want, though, is I do want Game Freak to outsource these remakes because I think it gives them opportunity to do other things with the Pokemon series, like Arceus, for example. However, they need to go back and remake all the games in one particular style, because I think we're getting to a point now where we've 12 games into it now or something ridiculous. Blue and Yellow, Gold, Sapphire, Diamond,
and
Leaf
Green, and
we've got all these different versions across a plethora of different consoles going back from the Game Boy all the way up until the Switch. I think it's time they put them all in one place and just let the people play.
Well, do you think that they should do away with the two different version style, like Red, Blue, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl? Do you think they should start releasing it just as a single game, or do you think they should stick with that? Your friend can have this one, and you can have this one, and you guys can trade Pokemon together.
I think when you're looking at mainline Pokemon games, they need to be two different Pokemon games because it encourages the trading side of things. It encourages you to go and work and make connections and everything else. You know as well as I do, back in the day when you had your Game Boy Color, or whatever it is, you religiously carried around that fucking link cable, waiting to get to the playground and bump into your friends that were also playing these games so that you could trade your Pokemon to get the evolutions, to complete your Pokedex, do all those kind of things. So I think trading and battling is such an integral part. If you just distilled the games down into the director's cut versions, i.e. Yellow, Emerald, Platinum, Black and White didn't have one, did they? And neither did X and Y. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon was the first time they did two separate director's versions.
They thought there was going to be Z for XY, but then they didn't end up.
Yeah, disappeared, didn't it? If you just bring out those ones, I think you take a lot of that out, and it takes away some of the need to try to play and trade and all that kind of stuff. Because if we've both got the same game, We can both fill up the Pokedexes. We can do our thing. We don't need to trade these Pokemons. The only thing that you're going to need to trade is the evolution Pokemons. Like, and that's it. Really.
Well, it having just one increases the single player aspect, but decreases the multiplayer aspect, which is really what Pokemon was originally designed for. Was from day one was trade with your friends, fight with your friends. You know, you should be playing with friends. Yes, you can play the base game by yourself, but you will still not be 100% complete unless you interact with somebody.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that's good. A lot of people have controversial views on those because they think they should just release one game because it's just a money grab for them to do it. Now, I think some people, like, if they're going to do the two separate ones, they should tweak the story just a little bit more in either direction so that it feels like you're at least getting a slightly different game. But,
which is something I think they did really well with Black and White and Black 2 and White 2, where
I loved those games.
Yeah, I love them as well. I think they're some of the best games in the series. But as you play through each game, some of the cities were a little bit different. Some of the story beats were a little bit different. Like, I think they do need to spend a little bit more time in branching off the stories a little bit. But I really want them just to concentrate and get another company just to go back and, you know, they've got this chibi style now, they've got this rendering engine and whatever it is, just go in there, throw in all the assets and stuff for the Pokemons, get everything remade, and bring them all onto one generation of systems, because there's so many great Pokemon stories out there, so many different things that they could do. You know, and like you said, some people complain about the two different versions because they say it's a money grab, blah, 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 blah. But that's never been different when it comes to Pokemon in general. There's always been... It's like when you look at the controversy around the DLC, where they brought back 200 Pokemon per DLC, and then, you know, some of these Pokemon you can't have in the main game unless you have the DLC, and blah, 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 and it was all wah, it's paywall, blah... That's always been Pokemon. There's always been differences between versions.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's a sticky point, though, because in previous versions, even if you didn't have a DLC or a game, you could still have the Pokemon in the game if you got it from, like, a friend or something. The way that they're putting it now, though, is that even if your friend has the DLC and trades you a Pokemon, you cannot have that in there unless you have the DLC, from what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So, how's your Nuzlocke going?
Good, actually. I had a real good time on Monday when I did it. I tried to
Nuzlocke's are fun.
Yeah, some shit voice acting, which was hilarious. I think I gave Hop about 3 different accents, and no doubt when I go back to it, he won't have the same accent again because I can't remember quite what I was doing, so I might have to rewatch it anyway. Let's go on to Arceus, shall we? Because I think this is the exciting one. So Arceus, trainers will get the chance to explore the Sinnoh region in a new way by traveling to the past in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Set long before the events of Diamond and Pearl, this game will allow players to travel across the Sinnoh region to discover the wild Pokemon and complete the region's very first Pokedex. And while Mount Coronet towers over the region, makes it clear that you're in Sinnoh, the Pokemon you encounter in this era may be different from the ones you remember catching in the other games set in the same region. Pokemon Legends Arceus is planned to launch on Nintendo Switch early next year. So, some of the details that they gave, that they showed off and stuff, you can't get away from this, and it happens every time. There's always that one game that then becomes the reference point for all other games, and it is Breath of the Wild. This looks to be the Pokemon Breath of the Wild game that everybody's been hankering for years and years and years. Fingers crossed. However, we need to set expectations. Nobody said that this is an open world game. Nobody's come out and said this. It looks open game, but it may not actually be open world. People have come for the visual styles and said that things look janky and the frame rates are off, and the Buffon and Chingli just wasn't animating properly and dropping frames and everything else. I think that this game looks really good.
Yeah.
It's
I'm looking at the page for it right now.
Yeah, it's lacking polish, yes. It's lacking consistency in frame rates and everything else. That's also correct. But again, we're looking at a build that's been made well over 12 months before the game's going to be released, and we all know how much games changes in 12 months. So I'm not that worried about it. Even when you look back at Sword and Shield, when the first kind of trailers and stuff came out, to the last trailer, the launch trailer, and the actual final product that you play, there are a lot of improvements and changes that they made, so I'm not worried about that too much. I'm just really excited for this idea of Pokemon Legends and hoping that this is going to be a series moving forward to kind of tell these stories like Arceus. I said back in the day when Sun and Moon came out, I would absolutely fucking love to play a game that was set in the Ultra Worm universe. Because they have Polypole, I think I'm saying that right. Because in that universe, the Polypole is a starter Pokemon, which is this weird pink alien-looking thing. All the Ultra Beasts I thought were really cool looking. Love to play a game that's based around that, and I think Legends could do something very interesting. What are your feelings on Arceus?
I think it looks great. I love Breath of the Wild and the style that it had, and I'm still playing Genshin Impact, which is kind of a style that they say is very similar to Breath of the Wild. And I think that Arceus looks great. They have a very high bar to meet if they're going to make this be kind of the open world aspect, if that's what they're going to do. It looks like the starters you're going to have are going to be Rowlet, Cyndaquil, and Oshawott. So they're actually picking a starter from each of the different regions, which is kind of neat. I like it because I think they should explore more of those old stories, kind of like we were talking about. For people who know like a lot of the old Pokemon history, there's the guy Az or AZ or whatever, and the 3,000-year war, I guess, like happened. They have a lot of old stories that, because it's such a kid's game and because you're always the main character in the current present time, you're always hearing about these legends of the past, basically. But in this case, I don't know how they're doing it. Are you actually like a Pokemon trainer of old, or are you being sent back from the present time? That's what I'm not 100% sure.
Well, that's something that's not quite been made clear, to be honest with you, and I think it could be a case of you being sent back in time.
They do say you're using a different Pokeball. It says they're using the old Pokeball that was made out of wood and used steam and stuff like that. So maybe you are I don't know, maybe you are from that time period and you're one of the original settlers. And so you're from that particular time period.
Well, in the setup and stuff in the video that they released when they were talking about it on the Pokemon Direct, they said that Sinnoh has just been settled. It's an island. People have traveled there. This is the first settlers on this island. And you go out on the orders of a mystery Pokemon professor to create the first Pokedex for Sinnoh region. Which explains why you don't have Sinnoh starters, because they don't even know what a Sinnoh starter is just yet. And the narrative is that this professor has brought Rowlet, Cyndaquil, and Oshawott from different regions across to Sinnoh to help you in your task of completing the first Pokedex for the region. And it seems like you're going to be doing something different. So the gameplay that they showed is like you kind of sneaking through grass and observing Pokemon's behaviors and kind of taking advantage of that to be able to throw Pokeballs to catch them. You can obviously still battle them as well. So it seems to be like a different way of doing things. I think that's really cool that you're observing these Pokemons and kind of like almost
they're taking a bit from like Pokemon Snap and like they're taking a little bit of that, the observing anthropological type aspect for it, and they're kind of blending it with the standard fight. I'm sure there will be fights and stuff like that, but in reality there probably isn't a Elite Four. There probably isn't a like champion or anything because it's a new region. So they have to come up with a way. You'll probably fight like rival groups or a rival settlement or something. And so they have to, since they're taking away some of the high competition aspect of it, which is you beating the Elite Four and becoming the big champion of the area, they put the observation, more scientific aspect of it into there and kind of meld this into this new game. Obviously, Arceus will be involved somehow with the story, I'm sure. And there's a lot of neat old stories of the origins of Arceus too, and the first humans that he worked with and stuff like that. So I think a really neat story, and it's definitely telling a part of Pokemon that we've never really heard from before. So that's a win in my book.
Now, I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on here. If I remember rightly, from the Pokemon movie with Arceus, doesn't Arceus team up with somebody, a human, and it goes wrong, and then he decides that he should destroy the humans and then gets trapped in like an outer dimension thing?
I think so. So maybe you're the person that's trapping them.
Well, what I'm thinking is maybe you're sent back in time to stop whatever it is that happens to make Arceus hate the humans. And maybe this
I don't
whole
know.
exploring
That
the
seems like that
area.
would screw up the whole current time. You know, there are two different separate Pokemon timelines, actually. And a lot of people don't know that there's one that happens where, man, I'm trying to remember it, but there's one that happened, like, when you did one of the games and they branch off, and there's two different Pokemon, like, universes that they don't overlap with each other. And I wish I knew more of the lore at the moment, but I don't know, I guess they have screwed with the time before, so maybe they would this time, too.
It's the Mega Evolution line.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Mega Evolution line went one way with it, and then there was the world where there wasn't Mega Evolutions, and there was something different, though. Isn't the one without Mega Evolutions is the... no, it's not the Omega one. Shoot, I can't remember. There's too many versions to keep track of.
Yeah. I think it's the ones with the Mega Stones is the offshoot, like, alternate timeline history kind of thing. But I think with the idea of you going back to have something to do with Arceus could play out a little bit like, you know, your classic Pokemon movie. You go back in time, you go in to try and stop Arceus, but then you go and see what actually happens. And, like, you going back and seeing these things and coming back through time to the present day then helps you resolve the issue in the end, if that makes sense. Like, maybe you don't go back particularly to stop Arceus, but you go back to learn what happened, what is this legend of old, which is now playing out in the normal game, because there was the event that was supposed to happen when Diamond and Pearl came out, where you would be able to get an Arceus, but it never actually happened. So I'm wondering if they're building on that idea of what would have been that event and turning it into its own game, because there's so much they can do with it.
Arceus is such a touchy subject for Nintendo to touch upon anyways, because A, he's the Pokemon god, and B, there isn't anything above him. Yeah. So, like, if you play with him too much as a active Pokemon that you can, like, fight or use or is active to the story, you end up taking away some of his mystery and some of his, like, power. I mean, if just random Pokemon trainer can throw a Pokeball and out comes Arceus, I mean, you're controlling God. So, I mean, like, you know, and they've never really made it clear all the time how much there's only one of one legendary, because some legendaries like Groudon and Kyogre or whatever, they're supposed to be like singular legendaries, but the legendary birds like Zapdos and Articuno and such, I believe there are actually more than just those three. I think there's more than one Zapdos or Moltres that you can get a hold of in the world.
Yeah. Well, if you look in my Pokemon bank, then that's definitely the case, because I've got multiple of each.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a great story. I think it's going to be a good game. I love the little videos of like the little Bidoofs wandering around the field and such. So this is the kind of game I want. And you know what? When I can play this in a polished version and play it in VR, you guys will not find me for weeks, because I will just be playing this all the time. So
Botorus is now actually turned into a Snorlax. He's living his life vicariously through...
I'll wear the onesie, and then I'll just fill out the whole thing, and it won't be so baggy anymore. I'll be like Gigantamax Snorlax.
Gigantamax Snorlax. You'll have a tree growing out you and everything. Last little bit of game details here was Pokemon Snap. So that's coming out on April 30th. The new Pokemon Snap sends you off on a little adventure to pick out, to set out and fill out your photo album with all the wonderful pictures of the Pokemons. Interested, not interested? What's your take?
I played the old Snap. It was fun. I mean, you have to go into it knowing this isn't a standard Pokemon game, and you want something relaxing. If you're looking for something action-packed or that is your standard Pokemon formula, then you're not going to like it. But if you go in with an open mind, I've always thought the Snap games were a lot of fun.
Yep. I'm going to buy it because, you know, obsessed in it. So cool. Well, let's see if we get any more Pokemon news later on in the year, because I know there's an album coming. We still haven't heard any more about Detective Pikachu 2, the game. So there's a few things.
I want to watch the new movie. I want to see the sequel to Detective Pikachu, because I loved the movie. I thought it was so great.
Good, So
best Pokemon movie, like live action type style, like they could have. I mean, like, I think they nailed it, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to a sequel to it.
It's going to be good. So hopefully we'll get some more information throughout the year as well. I'm hoping that they bring back a mythical event in Sword and Shield or Diamond and Pearl or whatever it is, because Lord knows I need to get me all those mythicals because I don't have any of them. Moving on to story number 4. This could be a legacy worth making. So, 2 big stories have come out this week around the Harry Potter game Hogwarts Legacy. First of all, we're going to head to IGN with Adam Bankhurst, who's got a little bit of a write-up. And he says that Harry Potter's RPG Hogwarts Legacy will reportedly allow for transgender characters. This is coming off the back of the fact that its creator has obviously had some controversies when it comes to transgenders. So it was reported by Bloomberg, but the sources have confirmed that players will be able to create a character that is either masculine, that has either a masculine or feminine voice, no matter what their body looks like. Furthermore, they'll be able to choose to be either a wizard or a witch, no matter which of the previous choices they've made. This will then help and determine what dorm they will be placed in and how they are addressed by other characters in the game. The news follows that after the controversy surrounding JK, blah blah blah. We all know what the deal is with that. What do you think about this?
I think the only Harry Potter game I've played is Harry Potter Lego, and I don't know. I liked the series. This is not a huge important thing for me. I do like them doing a little bit more representation, though it does feel like it's a little bit tacked on to try to help distance the game from Rowling and stuff like that. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they did, what they end up doing with it. I know with Cyberpunk 2077, a lot of gamers weren't just happy being able to just have their voice be different. Like, they didn't feel like there was enough representation other than just changing a voice tag one way or the other for who you sound like. So we'll see. I mean, I feel that trans representation is I'm just speaking from personal opinion. I feel that in a game like Cyberpunk, there's so much more open-endedness to be able to show it and put it in the right atmosphere, because Cyberpunk is such an open-ended game. But with something like Harry Potter, people are so ingrained with the stories and the books. I feel like this is going to be hard for them to kind of break into a little bit, because think about it. Every single mom and such that doesn't necessarily like Harry Potter to begin with is definitely not going to want their kids playing this game. And so I don't know. We'll have to see how it happens. I mean, kudos them for trying, but we'll have to see what the final result ends up being.
I mean, I think it's interesting. Kudos for putting representation into games. We need more of that across every single game. I don't think that Cyberpunk really did a very good job of what it did with its portrayal, because of how that turned out in the end. I do think that this is a way of distancing themselves from JK, and kind of sticking a middle finger up to her to some degree. But I do think that it's important that it does that, because they need to put that message out there that yes, it is based on her property, but it is nothing to do with her, and we are going to tackle this the way that we want to, with our morals and our viewpoints and everything else, and put out the game that we know represents the Harry Potter fandom and their diversity. I think that's a really important point for them to make and put out there.
One thing that came to mind while we were talking about it was, I feel like the witches and wizard thing, where you get to kind of choose which you're going to be. I feel like when I heard that, I got the mental image of like when a restaurant tries to be funny about their bathrooms and they put like cows and bulls on like you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
That's what it kind of feels like. It kind of feels like you can be a witch or a wizard, because there's such distinct different things, and so I don't know. We'll see. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So,
and I think we need to, maybe once we get more builds and stuff to be able to see this game, how deep does it go? Is it, a case of like Cyberpunk, you have deep voice A, deep voice B, deep voice C, and high voice A, high voice B, high voice C, and that's it? Or is it going to be more nuanced, and you being able to pick, the problem with Cyberpunk is that your pronouns were assigned to your voice pitch. So if you picked a more feminine voice, then you were classed as a she, rather than it being based on you picking male, female, or he, she, or they. And I think that if you can put these different things together and put it in a way that represents you, then good on you. But if it boils down to choice 1, 2, 3 makes equals
Well,
4, 5, 6, then it's not going to work.
I mean, considering how easy it is to replace a pronoun in, say, a Word document with like a simple find and replace kind of thing, I can't imagine that the coding for a game like Cyberpunk to be able to just change the pronouns easily based on what options that you toggle can be that hard. In my opinion, my personal bet is that the Harry Potter game won't even have deep voice A, B, and C. They're going to have masculine and feminine. And they'll try to like dress it up a little bit, but I don't even think they're going to give you multiple options within them. It depends on how much voice acting is, because if it's one of those games where the player character has very little voice acting and it's like they're talking through like little text boxes and stuff like that, then I can see them kind of going that route. But if there's a lot of like your character talking to other characters in the game, they're going to simplify that down a whole bunch. But we'll see.
See what happens. The second story to come out of the Wizarding world this week is surrounding a controversy with Troy Levitt, who was a developer on the game and has stepped down for his position at Avalanche Software following the issues surrounding his YouTube channel. So over at Kotaku with Luke Plunkett, we've got a bit of a story here. So Troy Levitt, the game developer, at the central controversy last month after it was discovered he ran a reactionary YouTube channel focused on attacking feminism and social justice, has resigned from his position at Avalanche Software, the developers of the upcoming Harry Potter game Hogwarts Legacy. He has tweeted out saying, 1, I have made the decision to part ways with Avalanche Software. I have nothing but good things to say about the game, the dev team, and WB Games. And 2, I will be releasing a YouTube video about this soon on my channel. He followed up with another tweet saying, to clarify, I feel absolutely secure in my position. However, I still wanted to resign for the reasons that I will explain in that forthcoming video. I'm in excellent spirits and very pleased with my relationship with WB and Avalanche, with a smiley thumbs up. It was reported in February that among Levitt's videos are lengthy defenses of both John Lester, the Pixar co-founder who left his position at Disney in 2017 after allegations of sexual misconduct, and of Nolan Bushnell, an Atari co-founder who Kotaku is reporting found to have fostered toxic work environments for women. In some of his videos, Levitt expressed support for Gamergate, a movement that fostered harassment against women and other minorities in the gaming industry, and criticized Anita Sarakansi tropes versus women's series as a uninformed fringe position. Levitt also discussed his opinions on Gamergate in depth during a 2017 interview, saying, Gamergate, while painful at times, on the whole proved to be a good thing.
Okay, well, so we know he's an incel. So that's good to know. Because having an opinion's one thing, but making an entire YouTube channel that is dedicated to your, but in my opinion, fringe opinion on things is another step. And the Gamergate thing was awful. A lot of women got really trashed during that, and that wasn't good. I remember a bit of that. And this guy's proud of his actions. He doesn't care. Like, you're not going to convince him, change him. He's probably happy to be gone as soon as they started putting like the trans stuff in there. And he's going to just be who it is. I'm not usually one for cancel culture and stuff, but this guy seems like a jerk, and I don't care how good he is at his job. He probably should just shut up and go into the back burner somewhere.
And I think when you are surrounded by a game that is already fuel for the fire of controversy, to have somebody like this within the team and be quite, I think he was a senior developer for the team, just does not help the situation in the slightest. And whether he jumped or was pushed is a different story. I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of that, but either way, it is a good move for this game, and definitely another piece of distancing needed between toxicity and this game.
I feel that it's a lot like a honorable discharge in the military, where they're like, hey, so we'd like you to leave on your own volition, or we will make sure you leave one way or the other.
Yeah.
And this way, if you leave on your own volition, then we look good, you look good, everybody's happy, and there doesn't have to be a giant problem. And so he knew he wasn't going to win. I mean, not in this genre, not in this particular controversy. And so he probably just bailed. And hey, if that's the case, good for him.
He's probably made a small book on his YouTube channel since this story broke, of people heading over there to research and see what it is that he's been saying and everything else. And the fact that he followed up to say, hey, I'm leaving, blah, 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 all is good. Check out next week, though, because I'm going to have a YouTube video talking about it all. Just to me,
that's some clickbait.
Clickbait. He knows what he's doing, and he's doing it to get the views and the clicks and everything else. So it kind of is not on the same scale, but does remind me of the issue that we have in the minute with the royals, Meghan and Harry, and everything that's going on here about them wanting to be left alone and then sitting down with Oprah for 2 hours. So,
well, we want to be left alone and out of the public eye, but we also want to be in the public eye and remembered.
Yeah. So I feel like it's the same thing here. Like, hey, look, everything's fine. There's no issues here. All amicable. We're in a good relationship. However, come back next week and check out my YouTube video with all the details. Cool. Let's get on to our last story, which is story number 5. Anthem died, and from its ashes, Mass Effect 4 and Dragon Age 4 shall live. EA has decided to cancel Anthem's development of its 2.0 overhaul, but in doing so, the future of BioWare's games and its other projects have taken a turn for the better. Dragon Age, for example, has been pivoted from a live service game back to its original RPG single-player roots, thanks to the success of Fallen Order and the fall of Anthem. So we're going to go across to Push Square, to Robert Ramsey. And he says, here's a story that somehow managed to pass us by. The next Dragon Age game, commonly referred to as Dragon Age 4, was going to be a live service title. And it was going to incorporate heavily multiplayer components, but apparently that version of the project has been scrapped following the success of the single-player action game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and the outright failure of Anthem. This is according to a report from Bloomberg that says the upcoming Dragon Age title is now set to be a single-player experience, and this change is in the direction has only taken place in recent months, which suggests that the game is still a long way off from release. EA seems to have been making a lot of moves recently to kind of come out and say, hey, we're not going to do the old EA stuff anymore. We're going to move forward and be good and give our developers freedom to create their games and follow their passions and their dreams and their wants and hopes and aspirations and everything else. And the old version of EA is dead and gone. And again, this kind of seems like another version of that. I actually kind of thought that EA would pump BioWare to rush this new version of Anthem out the door to get it back on its feet and making money for them again, but they've cancelled it. So what do you think to the whole situation there?
Well, I had been looking forward to Anthem before it came out and became a steaming pile of garbage. They reached really high. I liked a lot of the things they were going to do with it, but they just didn't make it work. And I think the online multiplayer genre is really crowded right now, and I'm glad that they're pivoting Dragon Age back to a single-player type game. I played the old Dragon Age games, and they are still to this day one of my favorite memories of like RPG single-player games. And the story is great, and the relationship interactions are great, and I'm glad to see them moving away from, hey, let's do the cash grab of getting a bunch of people online. Just not this genre. You know what I mean? And like there's tons of other games. Like Elder Scrolls Online, that does okay, but it's definitely not probably their biggest moneymaker. I would assume. I don't know. But I'm actually looking forward to see what they're going to do with it. I actually found out that Fallen Order is on the Game Pass, so I'm going to be playing that soon because I have not got a chance to play it, and I'm looking forward to it.
It is such a good game, and probably I accredit that game to being the reason why I've suddenly been able to play Soulsborne games, because it's such a good introduction to that kind of mechanic and the whole block parry, roll, all those kind of things, that it's a skill that then becomes transferable if you've never really played those kind of games before. I think that I'm low-key excited / interested to see what EA's playing, because the lady that came out, I forgot her name now, there's a whole article, it's over on IGN somewhere, where she basically sat down and was like, hey, look, we've not made the right decisions in the past. We've tried to steer the ship, put our fingers in the pies and everything else, and it's not quite worked out. And we've seen the fruits of people's labors with something like Jedi Fallen Order, where we didn't really interfere that much, and look at how successful it was. So maybe we need to take a step back and just let our devs do their jobs. If that's true, that could be very exciting. We could be going back to a time where EA was bringing out banger after banger.
Instead of being a constant source of meme jokes on the internet now.
And, again, Anthem had high expectations coming from a development house that's legendary. BioWare and its RPGs and its storytelling and everything else is so high-class caliber kind of things we expect from them. I'm not surprised that it failed because of the whole development issues that they had. Jason Schreier did a great article kind of rounding up everything else, and it all boiled down to BioWare magic. They rushed things out, they didn't work on things properly, blah, 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 and they just thought it was all going to come together in the end and be great, and it wasn't. And the live service model is not an easy model to crack. There are so many games trying to do it and so many games failing to do it. I think there's only really a handful that you can think of that have actually made it work. Games like Destiny 2. Games like Division, to some extent, had a rocky start, but kind of they're there now. A good game. I played the Division 2. I enjoy it. Things like, I don't know, Elder Scrolls Online and those kind of things, I class them as a different kettle of fish because they're World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls, what's the other one? Like RuneScape.
Okay. See, I thought they were going. I thought they originally were planning it to be an MMO, but now, from what you're saying, it sounds more like the Destiny Division, where it's like there's an online aspect to it that's very heavily integrated, but it's not the same thing as a full-on MMO. Okay.
Yeah. So like the MMO side of things, like they do well for themselves, but again, it's a market that's hard to jump into. You look at something like Star Trek Online. On paper, should have been an amazing game and did struggle for quite some time until it went free to play. Live service games are a struggle when you're looking at trying to deliver something that's akin to a single player experience, but then tap in these online components where you're playing as a group, you're doing raids, you're doing side missions, story quests, all that kind of stuff. If the content's not there, people aren't going to play it, and if it's repetitive, it's the same thing. Avengers is having the same problem. Although I'm playing at the minute and I'm actually enjoying myself, which I didn't think I was going to after playing the beta. I'm starting to see the cracks in the end game because I'm playing through the story, I'm doing these missions, and I'm seeing the same enemies over and over again, the same corridors, the same layouts, the same areas, all those kind of things. And if that diversity and that difference in maps and stuff isn't there, people get bored, they put it down. And then that's when the live service models fail. And Anthem's a clear case of that. It just was not ready to go. It needed more time in the oven. And I'm glad that they've put it to bed now and that they can put those resources towards Dragon Age 4 and Mass Effect 4 and hopefully give us better games than what they've given us previously with the likes of Anthem and Andromeda. So it's all good.
Looking forward to it.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's news roundup. We're going to do out this week. So some games that are coming out this week. We've got Apex Legends coming to Switch on the 9th of March. We've got Monster Energy Supercross 4, which I didn't even know was a thing until I saw this. And apparently this is the 4th version, or the 4th entry to this series. And that's coming out on the 11th of March on PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, X and S, and PC. And Crash 4, It's About Time, is coming to Switch, PS5, and Xbox Series on March the 12th. Any games you're interested in there, Bot?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, the Monster Energy Supercross Force is funny because you're looking at it and you're like, there was a 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, apparently. Apparently they sold enough for sequels. Who'd have thought?
I don't know. All my time has recently been tied up in either trying to get our D&D thing going up and running, or I have been heavily addicted to Valheim. lately.
Oh yeah, you talked
And
about that in the
it is so much fun. You got to try it. It's great. I did not think playing in like a Bronze Age, Iron Age kind of like survival game was going to be very much fun. And then I found myself killing 3 hours trying to mine tin ore out of the forest. And it's fun. It's very much Dark Souls esque for your fights and stuff like that. So either bring a friend along or you get really good at dodging and not taking any hits, because one hit from a troll. I mean, you have to understand, like, this game is so cool. There's trolls in it because it's done by a Swedish developer, and they've got this really great game. Like, there's a scene where my friend was playing it and he was in the woods and he goes, "Oh crap, I've got these trolls like following me." And I'm sitting here like farming in our little settlement area, and he comes running out of the woods, and literally there are two giant trolls breaking the trees with they have two big trunks in their hand, and they're just breaking the trees as he comes out of the woods, and I see them come out chasing him. And it's such a epic gamer moment because you're like, these are actual real enemies that are going to destroy our little settlement. And so we have to go and take them out. And we're hopefully tonight going to be able to build a boat for the first time and actually go out on the sea, which should be pretty cool. It is pretty cool. Yeah, I definitely recommend trying it. It's a fun game. You can play it very easily with friends, and it's only $20 on Steam.
Oh, that's cool. I've got so many games that I'm trying to juggle at the minute. It's not even funny.
I hear you. That's life of a gamer, right?
Yep, I'm trying to get... So, like I said, I've been playing Avengers. I'm trying to get the majority of my Avengers up to some sort of level cap, because the new Hawkeye stuff is dropping on the 19th. The PS5 next-gen versions are coming out on the 19th, so I'm kind of trying to get ready for that. I'm also still playing through on stream Bloodborne, Resident Evil. I just started a Nuzlocke. I'm shiny hunting. Like,
your plate is full.
Like this with games. Like, still trying to finish off Dark Souls 3. Like, I don't know. I'm glad I'm on furlough, because otherwise I would not have this time to play these games. So,
Beardy, do you need a professional to talk to about your gaming ADHD?
Potentially. Yeah. My bank balance probably needs a.
Yeah, your wallet could probably be happy for some intervention help.
Yeah.
But, well, you got to stay abreast of all of them.
Yeah. You only live in a pandemic once, don't you? So. Well, Bot, thank you very much for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks to everybody that swung by. I've seen Tiggs and Rigwell in the chat. Like I said, we shall be available for a little podcast over the weekend or the beginning of next week, but we'll let you know. And the best way to find that information out is to go to our Twitter and Instagram at Gaymers Assemble. That's GAYMERS, spelt the gay way, and Assemble, spelt the non-gay way, because there's no way that you can make Assemble gay. I mean, you can put a rainbow in it, we got ass in there, but, you can't put a GAY in there, can we? So, follow us over there, hit the follow button here, make sure you got the notifications on for Twitch, and you'll get a little notification when we go live. Until next time, say goodnight, Bot.
Good night.
And I'm going to say goodnight, Beardy, and we shall see you in the next one. Ta-ra!